Hello, friends. Happy Saturday. Appreciate you stepping away from the Ravens and Browns game. Assume you guys are interested in talking some best ball strategy. We're going to rip some drafts in the gauntlet and the mitten too, which is rapidly filling up. I think it's around 85, 86% filled the second mitten. So we're going to start actually with a draft in the mitten today. Fire that up here. And, I'll take some questions. We'll talk some strategy. Appreciate you guys joining. If it is your first time tuning in, we will talk best ball strategy. I will answer questions. I will kind of talk through mistakes I'm seeing the field making as we go through the drafts. And I am in a mitten here. It is just filled. Let me pull up the room. I will share my screen. And we will go from there. So I will be specific to my strategy here. Will be specific to Underdog. It's pretty similar scoring to DraftKings, similar advance rates. Not the same as Drafters, where Drafters is more of that cumulative scoring. I know we had some questions about Drafters yesterday. Let me share my screen. So I am here in the 4-hole. Don't know that I recognize any of these names, but appreciate anyone joining this draft, drafting along with me, who may be who may be out there listening. So, I know, many of you are familiar with me from my work over at 1 Week Season, kind of producing weekly daily fantasy contests, regular season best ball. I've also done some stuff over at DFS Mastermind, talking, short slate strategy, weekly winners and playoff best ball stuff last year. And so appreciate everybody tuning in. So draft starts pretty standard with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, 1-2. Typically Allen goes first, but do kind of see Lamar go first at a reasonable frequency. Jahmyr Gibbs comes off next. Again, I think just like yesterday, I'm going to start with Saquon Barkley. I know we did that in one or two of I think we did 5 or 6 drafts yesterday on stream. It's not that I'm any higher on Saquon Barkley than I have been for the past, month or so of drafting. I just have so little exposure to Barkley. So trying to get a little of that here. So Justin Jefferson comes off. Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, kind of leaving me with an interesting decision of what I'm going to do. Mahomes goes next. I think I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to, I'll take Amon-Ra and kind of force Solo's hand here. See what he decides to do. Would have been a totally different discussion if JR71 had not taken Mahomes. Probably would have taken A.J. Brown there and hoped that Mahomes had come back, obviously, in the 3-hole. Solo is likely going to take Jared Goff at the 3-3 spot at the 15. So it will kind of leave me with an interesting discussion of where I want to go. I will probably take my third NFC team. Generally, this is a mistake. But I'm going to have to try to potentially build around Minnesota here. May get blocked by JR in the 5-hole, at which point we will kind of punt on this draft. And so as we've talked about, I think basically every day that we've done these live streams, not every draft that you do is going to have a realistic possibility to be a winner. Typically you'll have one person who's, you know, not really paying attention. So let me see, where do I want to do? I want to try to salvage this. I could try to salvage one more time. Could punt down to that. Do I want to go this? Yeah, I think we'll kind of come here. This is unlikely to be a draft that has any chance of actually winning. So, in this kind of situation where you're, potentially you start off one direction, have to end up pivoting because of how the board plays out. You try pivoting again. If it doesn't quite work out for you, which is more common than you think, for me, I generally try to just take one-off strong players. I generally will avoid like Kansas City players generally. In this spot, I've already got one Lion and one Viking, so I'm at least going to have one bye player here. On a draft like this, where it's unlikely that this, now that Kyron's off the board, unlikely that this could really turn into anything. I'm certainly not looking at it as revenge in any way, shape, or form. But, for me, I am generally going to just kind of move on with this, do my best to grab a min cash out of it. Again, if Darnold is here on the way back, actually, I changed my mind. Please disregard everything I previously said about not taking any Chiefs. So one of the key aspects that I think goes underappreciated is kind of looking at the board and kind of realizing your opponents. So there's no one to my left that has a Chief. So I look at it and say, okay, if I grab Hollywood Brown, likely going to be able to grab one on the way back and actually be able to build out a board here. I'm going to grab Darnold here. In an ideal situation, I'm able to grab TJ Hawkinson to kind of at least have some type of build on the way back. And then I can at least make a week. It would be reasonably weak. I could make a weak Minnesota, Kansas City type Super Bowl. Might even be able to, kind of that, assuming they're both 1 seeds in this particular build. So I would likely stop at 5. So have Aaron Jones, Hollywood Brown, Sam Darnold now. Hawkinson went to the 1 hole, who has, no Viking. Obviously makes no sense, but pretty standard for a lot of these of the $5 varieties. Even when you see badges, you see a lot of people who honestly don't know what they're doing, just clicking random players. But neither here nor there. My draft kind of looks that way, to be candid with you. I can't see Sam Darnold in a Super Bowl, but hey, that's what Bestball's for. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't my first choice for this draft either. But he does have a really strong team around him. I candidly think that Minnesota beats Detroit tomorrow and becomes the 1 seed, which would make Sam Darnold's path a lot easier. But that's a little player takey. I think in general, I like to approach these drafts kind of generally looking at what the board presents to me and moving forward from there. So generally, if you look at the Vegas odds, Minnesota has a very reasonable shot to make the Super Bowl. They're one of the 2 or 3 favorites in the NFC. So certainly, not opposed to building around Minnesota. So let's talk through what some of our other drafters are doing, as we typically like to do. We'll start and work right to left. 6-hole went Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Xavier Worthy. So he starts off Hurts, is unable to kind of add any other Eagles to it until Dallas Goedert. Pretty reasonably weak build. I understand my build is in the tube. Again, as we talked about, not all of them can be winners. So let's see. What are we going to try to do here? If I'm assuming this is going to be I'm assuming Sam Darnold, if this is a 1-seed build for them, kind of going to 5 Vikings and stopping, which right now you see I only have 4, but we may add a 5th. We'll see. Do want to grab a second quarterback. So in a bye week, this would be Barkley, Amon-Ra St. Brown, George Pickens, Justin Herbert, and Puka Nacua. So some strong one-off pieces on this potential Minnesota Kansas City kind of Super Bowl matchup, but the matchup is pretty weak. My Minnesota stack here is pretty weak. But that's what we ended up with. So we're gonna fire up another mitten here. If you are looking to join, feel free to hop in, and I will do my best to join you there. I only have 9 mittens left. I think this is a contest that fills tomorrow, so no problem drafting most of those tonight, and just kind of seeing when they open up the third mitten, which will probably be on Monday. So we've drawn the 5-hole here, and we will kind of see how this build plays out. So in general, I think one of the key mistakes that I have seen multiple people make, I think we saw it at least once in that last draft, is drafting more than 2 quarterbacks. Obviously, to me, if you're not taking a bye week team, so if you're grabbing Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, in the first round, and these are teams that obviously cannot get the bye. Jalen Hurts cannot get the bye. These are first round quarterbacks. In my opinion, there's no real need to take a second quarterback. You can. I think it's a slightly minus EV approach, but you certainly can. If you end up taking one of Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff or potentially Sam Darnold, we'll know tomorrow, you should take a second quarterback. But you should never take 3. And I think we did a draft on stream like on Tuesday of this week where someone started out with 3 straight quarterbacks. To me, that's a huge mistake. So we're gonna go Gibbs here. See if we can grab Amon-Ra at 8. If not, we'll pivot. So this draft starts out 4 straight quarterbacks with Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. The 6th seed goes Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson. So I will build Amon-Ra St. Brown and kind of see how this shakes out. Kind of pretty standard. A.J. Brown next. Always kind of curious to see if Dan will grab Zay Flowers first or if he'll take him at 14. I think it's a mistake to take James Cook on builds like this, which is a pretty common start. Just because, Buffalo and Baltimore, if they both advance, are likely going to meet in the semifinals. Like it won't be a conference championship matchup. So to me, I generally don't like to take my first and second round players of guys that can't make it at least to the conference championships. If you end up with, you're starting like Saquon Barkley, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like that's a matchup. No matter what seed Detroit ends up 1 or 5, like they could very easily play in the conference championship. I don't mind that. I don't like taking teams where I know that it's not possible for them to play in the conference championship together. So Josh Allen drafter goes James Cook, Aaron Jones. That's as we've, I think, talked about on previous days. Once you go Josh Allen, James Cook, it's always an interesting discussion of where you go next. Interesting by the Lamar Jackson guy not to take Zay Flowers and grab Jamison Williams. Personally, I think that's a mistake. We're not going to push Jared Goff here. I don't personally think it's worth it on this board. So kind of the decision here for me is, am I going to grab Sam Laporta, or do I take an AFC piece with either Kelsey or Khalil Shakir? Too many Ravens pieces off the board already to really kind of consider that route. And then as the board unfolds, I can kind of make a decision on if I want this to be a build built around 2 1 seeds. So in this theoretical example, Detroit and Kansas City, or depending on how the board breaks out, maybe I'll consider continuing to build more than 5 of those players, with the assumption that the build may end up being dead. If Detroit does get the bye tomorrow, but if they don't, I've built a stronger team with potentially with, let's say, 6, 7, 8 Lions, or Lions and Chiefs combined, where if that is the Super Bowl, I will have and Detroit doesn't get the bye. It's a really strong build. It's kind of a risk tolerance thing. Again, we're drafting quote unquote early on Saturday here, January 4th. Early in the fact that we don't have the seeds. We don't know specifically where each team will be, who will have the buys. It's hard to say early for me because I've been rocking these drafts for like a month at this point. So I'm gonna go Laporta here. Really build out this build. And the question will be, in the 6th round, do I take Pacheco? And I think the answer for me is going to be no. And I'm gonna grab some stronger kind of one-off pieces here, like with Mike Evans, considered Nico Collins. Obviously, Tampa Bay does need to win tomorrow at home, facing New Orleans, who's going to be quite shorthanded, as they've been for most of the season. But I'm going to continue to operate under the assumption that the Bucs get it done and do end up grabbing the 3 or 4 seed in the NFC. To me, on a build like this, even if I'm going to assume that Detroit doesn't get the bye, I'm likely going to add at least one more Chief onto this build, which means I'm going to be playing slightly shorthanded in the 1st round, even if Detroit doesn't get the bye. If Detroit does get the bye, this roster will be dead because it'll have too many players, too many guys on bye, and I won't be able to field a 1st round matchup. But part of the risk of taking these type of drafts is giving yourself the potential to have what I'll call a pseudo super team if Detroit doesn't get the bye. And so I really like that in contests like the Mitten 2, which I will call like a snapshot contest. It opened on December 26th. It's likely going to fill tomorrow, before we kind of have that news of who is the 1 seed. So interesting kind of discussion here. I've got one scenario I'm like actively trying to avoid. I think I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins here. Try to get some more kind of some other options for the first round. And then I will take either Isaiah Pacheco or Kareem Hunt if for some reason CRC takes both. I'll just take DeAndre Hopkins and move on. So we'll talk through some of the other drafts. Not seeing any new questions in the in the comments. So have Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta with Kelsey and Kareem Hunt. So have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players. I will likely add one more Chief in the next 2 rounds. I don't know that there's a ton of value, in my opinion, in adding Tim Patrick or Khalif Raymond in the 10th on a build like this where I already have Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Laporta. I think I'd rather have that third Chief, but we'll kind of see what's left. Next, I've got running backs. I'm building this around Detroit not getting the bye, so I won't take another quarterback. And when it comes to me next, I'll probably look for another kind of what I'll call like a stronger one-off piece. Maybe that's Joe Mixon. Maybe that's, George Pickens, who actually just went. Maybe that's Jalen McMillan. Maybe that's Cortland Sutton. So we'll just kind of go from there, just because it's unlikely I'm going to use multiple scores in the first round from Lions, unless they, absolutely explode. Like, I'm not going to get 3 or 4 scores out of Detroit. So I want to try to give myself some guys who won't have a bye, could put up a strong score. And I think because he just took 2 Chiefs, the guy to my right. Do I want to go P. Ryan here? I'm going to go Justin Watson. No, I'm going to go Juju. So then when it comes back to me here, I will probably grab Joe Mixon. Do I want a 4th running back? Yeah, I don't really mind a 4th running back. Let's see, is there anybody? No, we're going to grab Cortland Sutton here instead. Yeah, we're going to grab Cortland Sutton here instead. So let's look here at the 6 hole. Went Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, Mark Andrews, Jordan Addison, Sam Darnold. So he's got a good build around Baltimore, Minnesota. Gave himself the option with 2 Kansas City players later. Added Cam Akers later as well. Don't mind that. Gave himself a couple of options to go along with a Minnesota build. 4 hole, Jay Cheek, Mahomes, Barkley, Worthy, Kyron, Hollywood Brown, Nico Collins, Jaden Daniels, Cooper Kupp, Noah Gray, Tucker Kraft. So he's got Mahomes, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Noah Gray. Potential. I mean, I guess his potential Super Bowl is Philly with Saquon. I would love to have seen him grab a second Eagle instead of Tucker Kraft here. I guess it could be the Rams with just Cooper Kupp. Kind of a weak build. Never mind. It's Kyron and Cooper. So he's playing for the Rams. Playing for the Rams would be his best bet. I'd love to see a different piece other than Tucker Kraft, probably another Eagle. Even if it's like Grant Calcaterra. That's where I'd rather see that build. 3 hole, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Zay Flowers, Khalil Shakir, Rashad Bateman, Dallas Goedert, Bucky Irving, Dalton Kincaid, McMillan, Justice Hill. So he grabs 2 Eagles. He adds Dallas Goedert. Don't mind that. Probably would have preferred to see him. Why am I drawing a blank? Grab Kenneth Gainwell probably here in the last round instead. But he went Zay. He's got Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. Okay, Justice Hill makes sense there. That's fine. 2-hole, Dan Rowland, Lamar Jackson, Devonta Smith, Jameson Williams, David Montgomery, Jacobs, McLaurin, Baker, Isaiah Likely, George Pickens. Man, this team seems like it's all over the board. Doesn't have Flowers, doesn't have Andrews, so he's got Likely. He's got a skinny stack with Lamar, with just Likely. Don't love that. Jameson Williams, David Montgomery. Did he grab another? He didn't. I don't think he can build a Super Bowl. Yeah, so 2-hole can't field a Super Bowl team unless I'm missing something. It's possible, but yeah, I don't think he can field the Super Bowl team. So this team is dead. And the 1-hole went Josh Allen, James Cook, Aaron Jones, Amari Cooper. So he grabbed Hawkinson. All right, so he's kind of built out Buffalo and Minnesota, Buffalo and Green Bay. So that works for him here. Let's do one more. Mitten. Firing that up in the draft lobby. If you want to draft with me, hop on in it now. It's 4 of 6. It's 5 of 6. It's 6 of 6. And we drew the 6-hole. Have you guys started doing any of these drafts yet? How many drafts do you have in? I think I'm pretty close to 300 plus drafts at this point. What about y'all watching? It looks like I've got about 300 of you watching live now between YouTube and X/Twitter. Let me know where you guys are in your drafts. Any questions that have come up while you're drafting, situations you want to talk through. I am here for it. I see the Ravens up 14-0. Not quite a surprise. I think I did 1 or 2 lineups in the two-game Saturday DFS. Both obviously had Ravens D, and went once they scored that touchdown, went and peaked, and of course they're 70% owned. People are too smart for daily fantasy these days. So the board goes Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. CRC is on the clock at 5. He goes Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm going to go Derrick Henry here, and then Justin Jefferson here. Unfortunately for the big one, this may be a build where we are around Sam Darnold again. So the big one might be disappointed if he's still watching. 5-hole with CRC goes Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. It is so fun for those of you who have been drafting a while, seeing ADP shifting. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was a period of like a week or two where you could not get that combination together once David Montgomery went down, and now it's becoming more and more common. So the four hole starts Saquon, AJ Brown. I really like that build for him, assuming he's going to come back and take Patrick Mahomes. If Mahomes is on the board for him at 4, which when you see The one hole start off quarterback, that's always questionable. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what he decides to do, Devonta Smith. So, when I thought that Josh Allen, Jared Goff was a really questionably and bad start, he then added Devonta Smith, which, if you've been listening to these streams lately, you know that I am not a fan of that start. Once you get Hurts, Barkley, and AJ Brown off the board, like just Devonta Smith, I think is just such a weak one-off piece. Certainly in your first like 3 rounds, like you're likely building around that. Like I just don't personally like it. So I'm going to go Jordan Addison here. And I think that this is a build where I'm gonna chance this a little bit. So I'm of the opinion that if you're doing a bunch of these drafts, I like pushing the builds. I think it helps you get some unique combinations. Obviously, it's not going to work out for you all the time. There will be plenty of drafts where you end up getting sniped on whoever you were waiting for, who you have tried to push. It just kind of part of the gamble that goes with it, in my opinion. It may end up being a dead build, but it helps you get that unique combination, different pairings, and I think that those are the type of teams that are going to win this contest. As someone who won this flagship contest last year on Underdog, I will tell you that you don't want to try to go completely off the board, but keeping in mind, ADPs, as you start to do 10, 20, 30 of these drafts, if you're doing at least that many, you will see very common board structures, very common pairings, over and over and over again. And while those certainly can win, to me, I generally try to push the envelope on some of those to try to get a little bit of a more unique build. I'm not going to push Sam Darnold any further. This will be the end of the Sam Darnold train. I'm going to take Pacheco. Pair him with Worthy. And we'll see how the board unfolds. If it comes back to me at 42-43 and Hawkinson and Kareem Hunt or or DeAndre Hopkins are like both still on the board, maybe I take them both and we just build out a really big Minnesota, Kansas City board. That, again, I don't want to say having a plan, but it's always good to kind of pay attention to what your other drafters are doing, what is likely or what's potential to come back to you. I wouldn't say that that's likely, just because I've got Posium at the 4 spot. Would expect him to go a certain direction with his picks. But again, I'm also quite happy just kind of standing pat with these 5 and playing this as a Minnesota, Kansas City Super Bowl, where I don't want to take more than 5 guys. So we'll just kind of see how the board unfolds to me, and then we just make the decision from there. I think being nimble, being flexible is really key in these drafts. You don't want to have your mind kind of made up on where you're going. But I think if CRC passes on both, which from his roster he probably could, I think I would go that route. from here, I don't know that I can really build anything all that strong. This kind of is a big decision. Now I'm going to go Hawkinson here. I'm gonna really lean into Minnesota not getting the bye, because if they do get the bye, this roster is now dead. And now I'm just going to build this out with some additional one-offs. Am I missing anything? Do I go Dobbins here? Do I go Cooper Kupp? Do I take George Pickens? Do I take Terry McLaurin? I am building AFC. Let's give myself some NFC options. Take J.K. Dobbins here. Obviously, Ladd McConkey gone already. Always have the option if I do decide to want to go that way. I could always grab Q here with Quentin Johnston. I'm going to pair him with Dobbins if I want. Again, I'm going to build this obviously with I've got too many guys for it not to be. Yeah, probably add one more Chief here. Not really sure it matters who it is. At this point, these are all dart throws. And so again, this is the calculated risk. If Minnesota does not get the bye, if they win on Sunday, aka tomorrow, this roster is completely dead. I don't have enough. I won't have enough players to fill the roster round one. I won't have a quarterback either because I'm not going to take a second. So again, a calculated risk. And I think that if you are, let's say you're maxing the 150, like this mitten contest, I really feel like you should have builds like this in your portfolio. Again, this could turn into a dead roster, or this could turn into a really strong potential team if Minnesota does not get the bye. So back to me here. This is likely a team where I'm going to be using. Took Juju last time. We don't have Travis Kelce on this build, so kind of a scenario where he quote unquote fails in the Super Bowl is maybe the touchdowns go to Noah Gray, which we've seen multiple times this season. Gray catch multiple touchdowns. So then the decision here is, do I want to consider Quentin Johnson as more of a one-off? I'm not sure I need it. 1, 2, 3, I don't know. Or do I want to go Naylor here? I'm going to go Quentin Johnson, try to just give myself another option for NFC with the Chargers with Dobbins and Quentin Johnson. So I don't mind that at all. Let's take a look at what some of the others have done. 5-hole went Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Nakua, Kelce, Kyron. He's got Jaden Daniels. He's got Matt Stafford. So he's kind of ended up having to pivot when Goff went. So he built this around the Rams with Nakua, Kyron. Man, I really would have liked to have seen him take Cooper Kupp here instead of like Brian Robinson. Like, just my 2 cents there. All right, so let's fire up one more in the mitten. Mitten 2, I have entered. It is 2 of 6, 3 of 6, 4 of 6. So any of you guys out there have any questions? Looks like the Browns were able to get on the board, kick a field goal in that game, kind of approaching halftime. So we'll do a mitten here, and then we'll do a gauntlet in the next one. So I know some of you guys like to see those gauntlet drafts as well, just kind of see how the ADPs compare. Let's Just waiting for the draft board to load. I have added it back to the stage. We are in the 6th hole yet again here. I see, I'm guessing a friendly face in CRC 5988 to my left again. CRC, if you are watching, say hi in the comments. So Black Muddy River says, even with double buy builds, I like to risk it and stack the other 5 players across 2 teams. Advance rates plummets, but when it hits, it's much stronger. Black Muddy, if you haven't already, down in the description, there is a link to a strategy article, strategy video that I put out like 2 weeks ago. You and I are aligned. That is my preferred approach when building double buy teams. Your main goal is just give yourself the highest probability to get out of the first round, just because you are playing shorthanded. You're essentially playing 5 players against some rosters will have 10. This is an interesting start. Don't typically see 2 running backs go off the board right away. We're going to go Barkley here. Again, just because I have so little exposure to him. Let's go Jefferson here. Some of these drafts may seem somewhat repetitive. Again, so one of the things that I recommend, certainly if you're drafting, let's say, more than 50 teams, I would create a spreadsheet where you're kind of tracking your your Super Bowl matchups. I would name your teams on Underdog, so kind of gives you a way of kind of tracking combinations. Essentially, everyone has kind of personal bias of like who you prefer at certain spots. If you're not conscious, you'll just end up drafting a lot of the same type teams over and over. I will say the one caveat to that is that you can actually draft an identical team 4 times and get different results based purely on pod luck. Not advancing out of the first round, advancing to the second round, advancing to the third round, and then winning the whole thing, just based on pod luck. Again, it's just something that I like to do is kind of just checking my exposures, checking my different combinations. We'll check it out. Yeah, of course. Thank you for tuning in. Always exciting to have 330 of you guys live here while an NFL game is on. Although it's not really much of an NFL game because the Browns are really not very impressive at the moment. So this start may look oddly familiar. Let's see. Where's the Josh Allen drafter? He went Cook. I'm going to take Khalil Shakir here. Are you mixing Lamar Hurts? Eagles have about twice the Super Bowl odds, so it feels like Hurts is the much better pick. Yeah, I think that I have reasonable exposure. Let's say 15 to 20% of all of Mahomes, Goff, Allen, Lamar. I'm a little lower on Hurts, just because I feel like his builds are much harder to get. I don't know that I've seen a Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown team. It's somewhat rare to get Hurts and Barkley together and then be able to add even Devonta Smith to that. So to me, it feels like you can get away with skinnier Eagles builds with it. Maybe it's just Hurts and AJ Brown, or maybe you are able to get Barkley and Devonta Smith. Like, I feel like you really only need 2 pieces. I think if you grab Jalen Hurts, you probably want 3 total pieces. Like, you're probably going to have one of Barkley or AJ Brown, and then like I would like to see you grab Gainwell or Dallas Goedert, like adding that additional piece just to give you more options in the Super Bowl. If it ends up being an Eagles Super Bowl and you get to the Super Bowl with only Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, it doesn't matter who the other team is, it doesn't matter who their opponent is. Like, you're gonna be blocked. Like, that's just how it's gonna go. So I'm gonna grab Darnold here, kind of pairing him with Jefferson. I've got Shakir. I think on this build I'm going to grab Amari Cooper. So the reason on a build like this, where I would not consider like Hollywood Brown, on a build like this, where if I'm going to assume that these are 1 seeds, where it's Minnesota, Kansas City as a 1 seed, on this draft, I went Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Sam Darnold. I don't have Aaron Jones, and Pacheco and Hunt are off the board. So taking Hollywood Brown and then, later in the draft, taking DeAndre Hopkins doesn't do me any good. You could make a case for in the 10th round grabbing Samaje Perine or Cam Akers. To me, that's just so thin. You're going to be up against stronger teams. And while it's possible that like Perine catches gets a passing touch, like, he's just not all that involved. He's involved in the 2-minute drill generally, or in trailing game scripts. He's in there as more of the pass catching Dak. It's possible that he outscores Kareem Hunt or Pacheco or Aaron Jones. But even, in a Minnesota, Kansas City Super Bowl, like, to me, that's just super thin. So I would not build that. And you wouldn't see that unless you're paying attention to see, Pacheco and Kareem Hunt both went in the first 30 picks. Like, that hardly ever happens. So if you're not paying attention, you would not see that. So on a build like this, I don't mind taking Hawkinson, because, again, even if Minnesota is the 1 seed, I'm not worried about not having enough players. So I'm not taking anybody from Kansas City. Could grab Keon Coleman here. I think I'm going to not do that. Where is the Josh Allen drafter? He has James Cook. I'm going to do something a little unusual this early in the draft, and I'm going to come up and grab Ty Johnson. Kind of give me the ability to have whatever that would be, 7. Jefferson, Addison, Darnold, Shakir, Cooper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm probably going to stop here in terms of Bills, Vikings. And then on my next 2 picks, I'm going to try to give me some additional outs for kind of first round, second round scores. Just again, because I have built so many around 2 teams, it's just unlikely that you're going to get 3, 4, 5 scores out of those teams. You know what I mean? For those of you who play daily fantasy, you're quite familiar with what I'm talking about. So for me at this point, I'm likely looking for kind of some stronger potential options of one-off plays. I don't care what conference they're in. highlight guys that, like Romeo Dobbs is a guy who typically goes in like the 9th or 10th round now. Guy who has multiple 2-touchdown games. Like Cortland Sutton's a guy that I do like. I'm good on running back with Barkley. I guess the question is, do I want to add another Packer instead of Jalen McMillan? But I think the answer is no. Like, it's Christian Watson. It's Tucker Kraft. Yeah, I'm gonna go Jalen McMillan here. And so this is really a build for Minnesota, Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Would have to be playing through Ty Johnson as my one running back. So that's obviously that is a disadvantage if that is the Super Bowl and I go up against James Cook. But again, something that is overcomable. All right, so as promised, we're gonna fire up one in the gauntlet. So if you want to draft along with me, go ahead and navigate over to the gauntlet, and we'll fire one up here in it. And it is filled. Looks like I was the 6th. And we drew the one hole, so we will likely grab Josh Allen. I wonder if we will see a little uptick in volume as we get to halftime of this Ravens game. Looks like about a minute and a half to go in the second quarter, coming up towards halftime. Got about 350 of you guys watching live with me now between YouTube and Twitter. If you've got any questions, please put them up in the Discord. Anything strategy related, any drafts you've seen, or you just kind of want to pick my brain. So again, we're going to start off Josh Allen here. And we'll kind of see. I feel like generally you see more badges in the gauntlet versus the mitten, and you generally don't see people go as far out of line. Buy-in is 5 times the buy-in and people I think are generally kind of play it a little closer to the vest, which I think that there's an angle to exploit on that. So the board starts off pretty standard with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Sticky Kush takes Jahmyr Gibbs. Patrick Mahomes goes next. And we've got F the WW going Saquon Barkley, and we'll see what he decides to do with his next pick at the 1-2 turn. So for those of you who are 1 week season subscribers, we've got a playoff Bestball channel over in the OWS Discord. Designed to be a place where people can come talk through best ball stuff, ask questions, talk strategy. If you are not in there, I hope to see you in there. If you are not a member of 1 week season and you want to check it out, I've got a link down in the description where you can sign up. You can sign up for OWS free, which gets you access to certain aspects of the Discord, which the playoff Bestball channel would be part of that. So would love to have you come join in, be part of the community. So board goes Barkley, Henry to the 6, Mahomes, Justin Jefferson to the 5, Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown to the 4, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown to the 3 spot. No soup for you on deck with Lamar Jackson. See which direction he decides to go. He takes Devonta Smith. As we've talked about pretty extensively here. I will go James Cook. And then for me, this is a spot where I generally don't consider Khalil Shakir. I'm very okay with Allen and Cook and then taking some Bills much later. I think this is a spot I'm going to gamble on Jameson Williams. I do feel like as current ADP has shifted, the one hole which I felt early in the draft cycle, early in the draft window, was a very advantageous spot to be. This was back when Saquon Barkley was typically going second in every draft. I do feel like if the board plays out, reasonably clean, for lack of a better term, people aren't getting out of line. The one spot actually is a pretty difficult decision at this 2-3 turn. If James Cook is on the board, I do think the appropriate play is Allen Cook. But then where you go in the third round, I think is a critical decision point. And there are players that I think are completely minus EV play. To me, Devonta Smith is a very poor pick with this stack, just because, as I think we've talked about maybe even earlier today, like A.J. Brown, Hurts, Barkley, all off the board. You're not going to be able to really build anything strong as it relates to the Eagles. Devonta Smith, not a strong one-off piece. So to me, I don't like Devonta Smith at all unless he's paired with either Barkley, Brown, or Hurts. To me, I don't think I have any exposure to Devonta Smith, just kind of one-off. But again, it's a personal preference. So the 2-hole, he's gone Lamar, Mark Andrews. Man, I don't know why he didn't take Zay Flowers. Like, such a high likelihood Andrews comes back to him at 23. That just seems like such a risk to take on to take the guy that would have been there anyway if you had gone Flowers. But won't be too negative towards no soup. Where are we going to go here? I think this is a spot where I go Josh Jacobs and Khalil Shakir. I don't mind Jacobs here just because of how late the Packers generally go. This is a stack you are... he just busted his knee. Who's he? So I'm not watching the game. I'm streaming. Who just busted his knee? Flowers just went down. Thank you, Muddy. Where was I going with this? So I was talking Packers. I do like Josh Jacobs in builds with Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, just because it's so easy to stack up Green Bay late. Like, Jacobs typically goes here 4-5 in the 4th, 5th round. I've seen him go sometimes even as late as the 6th. But then, I think your next Packer is Jaden Reed, who goes at ADP 47, which, is down here in the 8th round. You can build out Packer stacks with Reed, Dobbs, Watson, Kraft in the 8th, 9th, 10th round and kind of get the full-on stack. I think this is for me, this is a spot where I'm kind of buying the dip on Green Bay. My intention on this build was to grab David Montgomery at this turn. This now kind of makes Jameson Williams kind of a useless piece. No other line really worth taking. I don't know that I'm going to grab any. I don't think I'm going to take Amari Cooper at this turn. I'm just not as high. So we're going to grab Nico Collins here. Strong possibility I'll be able to grab Mixon later in the draft as well. I'm going to grab Jaden Reed here and kind of build this out as Buffalo, Green Bay. I'll go ahead and grab the rest of the Packers for the queue. This is not a build where I feel like I want a second quarterback. I've got Jacobs, so I won't consider Wilson. I don't mind just kind of throwing these guys there, just to kind of see. So the two, let's work from right to left. We haven't talked about the back half of these drafters yet, this board. So 6-hole went Barkley, Henry, Addison, Nakua. Took Sam Darnold. I would fully expect him to take Hawkinson at this 7-8 turn for him. And he doesn't. Not sure I understand that at all. Not a build that really makes much sense. Kind of one of the things that I feel like as you're drafting, it's kind of important to kind of keep in mind the story that you're telling with your build. Like this roster tells no story. 5-hole, Mahomes, Jefferson, Worthy, Aaron Jones. I like this. He's got Mahomes, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and he's got Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson. So the 5-hole Scoobs, probably saying that wrong. He's going Kansas City, Minnesota bye. He's likely not going to take anyone else. And he's likely now just taking, well, maybe not. He's got McConkey, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Herbert. He's kind of giving himself multiple options here. Do I want to grab another Bill? Probably not. I probably need a little diversification on this build to kind of help me get some more scores. Okay on running backs, if this is going to be my Super Bowl. I'm going to grab George Pickens here, and I'm going to grab Romeo Dobbs here. Am I? I'm going to grab Dalton Kincaid here. And the reason for that is if I want to take another Bill, this is the place to do it. Kincaid or Coleman likely won't make it back to me. And again, there's 4 Packers that I would be okay with kind of being my third Packer on this team. And I'm okay with going kind of 4 Bills with Allen, Cook, Shakir, and Dalton Kincaid. And then I'll have 3 Packers with Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, and one of Dobbs, Watson, Kraft. And then I've got some kind of one-off pieces between Jamison Williams, Nico Collins, George Pickens to kind of help me, increase my probability of getting out of the first round. So this is, okay, I stopped kind of halfway through. Sticky Kush went Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, really leaning into Detroit, not getting the bye. He's then got Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. So setting up for that Rams Detroit Super Bowl. I'm sure he's a little bummed to not have gotten Puka Nacua on this build. He's got Isaiah Likely kind of as a one-off. Don't mind that. I don't, not a lot of value there unless you're going to add another Raven. 3-hole Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Kelsey, Pacheco, Gainwell. So he's got 5 there. He's got Bateman and Justice Hill as an option there. So I like that. I like that build there. And the 2-hole talked about a little bit. Lamar, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. Probably a build I'd like to see him grab like Justice Hill here. Justice Hill's off the board. Maybe it's a build he goes, Keaton Mitchell. You need another running back, no soup, if you're listening to this. And it appears I was wrong. Looks like Keon Coleman would have still been there had I wanted to go that route. But I am happy to take either Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson. I think No Soup may have been listening. He did take Keaton Mitchell. So, you guys want to do one more, or are we good with just the 4 drafts today? Looks like we're getting some votes for one more. Okay, I'm going to do a mitten. If you want to join me here, let's hop in. Let's hop in a mitten. Mitten 2. I am firing it up. So if you want to join in with me, hop on in. It looks like it's 4 of 6. 5 of 6. Come on. And we have drawn the 6-hole for at least the 3rd time on our stream today, which I don't really mind it. It just generally kind of dictates a lot of where the draft has to go based on those first 5 picks. Any additional questions here, y'all throw them in the chat. If not, this will be the last draft of the stream. Again, this is a $5 mitten. I think the contest is getting pretty close to full. I'm checking on it now. It is 87% filled. It's moving pretty quickly. It will be filled by tomorrow night. And then I would expect Underdog to open up a 3rd mitten contest probably on Monday. So if you are looking for that price point, I would not get discouraged. The only thing discouraging about Underdog is the fact that I cannot acquire, whether it is them sending me or me purchasing any swag. I've got a ton of drafters stuff. You guys have seen me wear a bunch of Underdog stuff, of DraftKings stuff. Can't get any swag from Underdog. So if anyone from Underdog, Hope, if you're out there listening to us today, hook a brother up here with a shirt or a hat so I can support the cause and rock some gear, rock some swag. So this board opens up Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley. And we'll see what Tyler does in the 5-hole. This could be an opportunity if it gets to me for me to take Jalen Hurts, but he is not there. Sorry to say. All right, we're going to go a little different here, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna just flat out do something. We're gonna build a Minnesota Kansas City Super Bowl, which taking a good bit of Vikings today just because I have not taken as many. I've got a lot more builds around Kansas City and Detroit, and I don't mind building some around Minnesota and Kansas City. But again, we may end up having to pivot. We'll see what the board gives us. Part of the challenge, I feel like, doing these live streams and having several of you drafting along with me is I feel like I share my thoughts on what I want to do, and it ends up not being viable after after putting it out into the ethos, as they say. Looks like a heck of a first half rushing for Derrick Henry. 6 rushes for 8 yards. Impressive. So the one hole, obviously not listening to our draft, has not listening to our draft strategy, has gone Josh Allen, Jameson Williams, Devonta Smith. 2 hole, Bezelbub, Lamar Jackson, James Cook, Mark Andrews. I think that's a mistake going Lamar Jackson, James Cook. Like, these are, again, our teams that cannot make it to the NFC, or excuse me, the AFC final conference championship against each other. But just my 2 cents. So we'll just kind of stick with this here, and Aaron Jones, Xavier Worthy. Kind of build out that Kansas City, Minnesota build. Five hole, Tyler went Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. Again, so Tyler, injuries aside, got Jalen Hurts, doesn't have a single Eagle with him. Like, to me, if you're gonna take Jalen Hurts in the first round, you've got to get Barkley or AJ Brown with him, or else I think you're really just doing yourself a disservice. The 3-hole WFW is able to kind of start off with that Detroit overstack that we've seen and talked about. Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Goff, Laporta. 2-hole Lamar, Cook, Andrews, Addison. So in a build like what I am attempting here, this is a build around Minnesota theoretically getting the 1 seed. Again, I want to make sure I'm stopping at 5 total players between the Vikings and the Chiefs. Even if the Vikings don't end up getting the 1 seed, like, obviously this build isn't dead. I've just got more live guys, more active guys for round 1. It's more likely to advance out of the first round, a build like this, but less likely to win the whole competition. So I certainly know where I am likely to go here. Again, so I'm going to give myself another out along with yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Give myself another out with Kansas City. I'm grabbing both Tampa Bay Bucks here. Again, for some additional outs. Next round, probably that 7-8 turn, I will grab a Chief. Whether it be, I mean, it's probably not going to be Hollywood Brown, but Hollywood Brown, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins. I'll take one of those three at this turn. Again, I'm not going to take Hawkinson on a build like this where I'm playing for both of them to be the 1 seeds. I will need another quarterback. On a build where I take Evans and Bucky Irving, I will probably, at the 9-10 turn here, I'll probably target Baker. Just because I'm already making that bet around Tampa Bay. And if Tampa Bay has a poor game in round 1, like, this team likely isn't advancing because I am, banking on those scores. So again, as we kind of talked about, like, to me, this is just when you're doing these 1 seed buys, in my opinion, once I've got my 5 players and they don't necessarily have to go 5 straight. I'm then generally taking one-offs, guys I think who have reasonable possibility to give me a strong score in round 1, help you advance out of the first round. And then from there, again, you're put into a pot of 10 and you've got to be the top scorer out of the pot of 10. So you really have to borrow a phrase from one of I guess 1 week season competitors. You really have to run pure. Like, things have to break your way once you get even out of the first round to be able to advance to the conference finals or to the Super Bowl. After the first round, it's 1 out of 10, and then another grouping of 10 teams where only the top score advances. You will have a bunch of dead teams after the second and third rounds. But again, you gotta be there to be in it. So here on this build, we've got Mahomes, we have Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins to go along with Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones. This is a build built around both theoretical 1 seeds. So again, I will need a second quarterback. My intention, grab Baker Mayfield, should be there. Again, who knows with people in these type of drafts. On a draft like this, I would never take Sam Darnold, even though he's available there, because again, I'm betting on Minnesota being the 1 seed. And again, I'm playing for my one-off pieces. So my one-off pieces in this particular draft are Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, George Pickens. I will theoretically grab Baker Mayfield with the next pick. I will not take Jalen McMillan, even if I take Baker, just because then I'm really asking, in my opinion, for too much out of Tampa Bay. Would be essentially needing 4 scores out of the Bucs players to advance, and that's just so unlikely. So this is a build where I would consider, let's say, Cortland Sutton, Quentin Johnson. I could consider a third running back with like Jalen Warren. I could take Romeo Dobbs. I'm not sure it really matters, to be candid with you. I wouldn't mind another NFC piece, so I guess Quentin Johnson or Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton is the riskiest just because we don't know if Denver is in the playoffs. I'm going to take Jalen Warren on this build. Give me a third running back, potentially another running back for the second round. So, again, this build, Mahomes, Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones in a Kansas City, Minnesota 2-bye week. Super Bowl with Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, George Pickens, Jalen Warren, and Baker Mayfield, my 5 to try to get out of the first round. And that is likely going to do it for me today. I do appreciate you joining I will be live at 5 Eastern again tomorrow, drafting some more mittens if it's still open. If not, we'll do some gauntlets. And appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to having you join me tomorrow on stream or in the OWS Discord. Thanks again for tuning in.
1 week season.